Do not adjust your radio dial. You are tuned in to the Mark Order Podcast. Join the Mark Order.
It's Wednesday night. And Ryan already cut out the music, so you know what that means. We're getting down to business here on the Mark Order Podcast. We thank you so much for joining us. If you guys could leave a thumbs up on this video, that would be really neat. Apologize for us being delayed getting on, by the way. Ryan was like, he couldn't choose which slutty Kyle Fletcher tank or crop top to wear, unfortunately. So he gave up.
You can put this on me all you want, but two people have identified what you were doing. First, George said it. Katie's busy influencing people. And then Matt Wright Keel. Katie's influencing someone. So two people identified why you were late.
Okay, I'm constantly influencing. Okay, that doesn't stop me from going about the things in my regular life, but it is true. I'm just constantly influencing people with my lashes. With Lash Life, but thanks for hanging in there. We see you, Matt Radke. We see you, Taylor Cannon, who's always so great to me and to us, Lord Kev, Big G, and most importantly,
Pieces?
Hi, Jesse Ozog. Hi, Pieces, too. We love Pieces, but...
I know, but you were saying most importantly, so I had to cut in. And
hi, Jesse Ozog. Scott George, too. What's cooking, guys? My goodness. So...
Ryan always cuts off the music.
You Shane McMahon perv, I just saw what was under your... What's under your name?
Money.
We're going to get to all of that and more, but if you could leave a thumbs up on this video, it definitely helps people find us. If you could leave a comment here and let us know what you think, as long as it's nice. If I could influence you to do that, that would be so rad. So please, if you could, and if you're listening in audio form, to leave us a 5-star review. I'm going to try to remind you guys, get better at that, but we have no Joe, which is a bummer, but apparently
no Joe.
He thinks
that was a G.I. Joe.
Just because like his loved ones are without power because of vicious storms that swept through his area, that like wrestling podcasting doesn't go on, I guess. And as you guys know, we take this extremely seriously at the Mark Order Podcast.
Super serial.
I'm a fucking influencer, okay? This is why Joe can never influence. He might have the best lashes you've ever seen, but he runs from the grind as soon as a natural disaster swings his way and uproots the lives of his friends and family at his corporate workplace. Like, psh. I wish it would rain here. I'm not asking for the path of destruction, but it's fucking disgusting humid out right now. It's so gnarly, but I am sadly joined by, fortunately, I'm joined by Ryan. He did not.
Just mean.
Let's start off with the hard-hitting questions here. Why don't you have a Kyle Fletcher slutty cropped shirt on?
The new look just broke tonight. How was I supposed to get a crop in time?
Okay, it broke last week. For starters.
Also, I'd point out that you don't know I'm not.
It's pretty obvious you're wearing a full-length white t-shirt, but pay attention to me, Ryan. Make eye contact. Be influenced.
No, I'm doing this on purpose, just because you took a shot at me, and I was trying to find. I was trying to see if I could find something funny, and I couldn't. So we're gonna move.
It's okay, Ryan. You can leave the funny to the live show, because we're gonna bring all the delightful laughs here on the Mark Order Podcast. We're going to talk about this episode of AEW Dynamite, which I actually thought was a lot better than Blood and Guts, so I have feelings about that. But we got a lot of cool stuff. We got the in-ring debut of Camille. We got Bryan Danielson kind of retiring-ish again. We're going to talk all about that and more. But I also did want to give a shout-out to our friends at the Shining Wizards Podcast, who celebrated their 700th episode. My goodness, we're going to tell you more about them in the commercial break, but just kind of off the bat, that's an insane number to accomplish. I accomplished it already. Just in like 2 years, but I'm an influencer, so whatever. But sincerely, like once a week for 700 episodes is bananas. They've literally never missed a week in that time. And they added Brendan, who's great. So I'm excited to see what's in store for them. Congrats to them. They had a lot of my personal favorites on, so it was very fun for me to watch that show. They had it was like 4K. They had Francis Wright on, who I adore. They had Bad Dude Tito on, who was my guy. They had Sam Adonis on. Like there were so many people that are my faves. And honestly,
did you book the show?
It felt that way, right? I was talking to Kevin Garifo about that, and what's cool about it is I've discovered a lot of talent through that show. Like I found out about Sam Adonis, I think, through that show, and I had known about Bad Dude Tito, but I had kind of just started learning about Bad Dude Tito the first time they tried to have him on the show. And what was so funny about that was Matt's power went out, and he was like the one prepared for the interview because Tito was doing a bunch of work in Japan and like just hysterical. That's the guy that
I remember that very much. Didn't he try to go on his phone then at that point?
He did, and he actually did a pretty good job considering. Yeah. But just a good time. Go support those guys at Wizards Podcast. They're the reason that I got to start doing what I do now most nights of the week, and they put in a lot of hard work. So please support them at Wizards Podcast. We're going to tell you more about the other shows on the Shining Wizards Network. But first, Mr. Money. How you doing over there, Ryan?
I am grand. I'm a grand old flag. I'm a high flying flag.
So like MJF's little theme today.
We will get to that. I love it so much.
I'm into it. Not everyone's. This has been pretty polarizing out the gate for MJF, but I'm digging it now that I see the vision. Like he changed the international titles to the American belt, and now he's like going to CMLL. He's gonna defend it in Rev Pro. Like that's gonna be a lot of fun, and it's obviously
their biggest show is abroad. Like it there's a whole.
Yeah, I think Will Ospreay's gonna win it back, and they're gonna give him winning it as the hometown hero against the patriotic American. But we are gonna get into all of that and more. But what's going on with you, sir? We are in the thick of summer. How you been?
Hot. It's too damn hot.
It's gross out. It's like humidity is so much worse. I know the whitest thing you can say is like it's the humidity that gets you, but it kind of is. Like it's so disgusting out, and it's not even the heat. It's like when you walk outside and there's just that wall of humidity. My poor dog is like, "Can we go home now? Like this is miserable." But
that's why I don't go outside. Stay inside.
Stay inside in your cool air-conditioned bachelor pad that you have behind you. So
it's so cool, so modern.
It is so sleek and modern. It doesn't even really feel like your style. I would have expected like a study with like a huge library of books, but you're apparently quite the minimalist. And
I'm a huge minimalist because and the weirdest part is I don't know why I do this, but I have 2 desks apparently with 2 computers.
You got like your workstation and then your studio set up. I get it.
Yeah, my very fancy studio setup.
I was so close to debuting what I think is going to be a tremendous bit with my standing desk in the future. I'm not going to unveil like what Brian and I had talked about, but I assembled it because I'm a boss babe, so I can just do those things by myself. I closed a sponsorship while I was working on my desk. I just like, what can I do? You know what I mean? But
I could think of a lot of things if we want to go down that list.
No. We're gonna ride the high of it, but it's very nice after like basically 3 years I've been in and out of this room. But my Wi-Fi has finally come correct. I'm still waiting for them to finish up a couple more repairs. But you would think having 3 years of preparedness, I would know exactly what I wanted to do with this space. And like now my mind is just going with possibilities and ideas. So we'll see, but I'm excited that it's coming along, and I just needed to upgrade some stuff like the desk that I've had. When I moved in here, it was like I think it was September, and I had some stuff, but I moved from a studio to a 2-bedroom. So I was like, I'm going to wait for Black Friday and I'm going to get deals. And I just ordered like my entire apartment's worth of stuff. Like over Black Friday, but that was almost 7 years ago at this point, and I desperately needed some upgrades that weren't like a Wayfair Black Friday deal. So slowly but surely pulling it together. I'm very excited. But Asian Joe is in the chat. We love Asian Joe being able to participate, saying, I always assumed Ryan lived in a shack off the grid in rural New Jersey and used a VPN when on Wi-Fi to tweet and stream.
No, I live in a van down by the river eating government cheese.
This is your outfitted van?
Yes, I'm fancy. Also, hi Kylie. Who's in the chat.
Kylie rules.
But since you're not going to take my idea for the background, correct? So can we give what my idea for that was?
Yes, of course you can.
Everyone on there, I need your support in my great idea. So Kate is coming up with these wonderful ideas for her background. But what I thought she should do is put a bunch of pictures up of famous events and insert herself into them. So like you might see Jack Ruby being shot and Kate standing off to the side watching or something like that. Like that's what I think. So if you think, you know, the best part is that maybe we make them wrestling specific. Kate at Mania, Kate in.
See, that's initially what I thought you were pitching.
Well, that works too.
I kind of like your idea of being at like true historic events better. Yeah. I think that's more fun, but it's exciting. I'm excited to get it to come together. I probably won't take your idea just from the idea of I should have a reel at some point because I've been doing this for 3 years. Like I should do. It's very weird and not to like whatever. But I went from doing this awesome podcast, which I still adore doing every week, to working at Fightful, which was supposed to be a once a week gig, to now being over there pretty much every other day of the week that I'm not here kind of quickly. So I never really did the things that, because I never planned on doing this professionally at all. Like I never did the things that people do to align like their brands. And like I never made a reel. I never did any of that. I was like, I should probably still have those things. Like, especially I'm looking for full-time jobs right now. Like if I wanted to do a podcasting full-time job, I need to be properly prepared with some of that stuff. So I need to get all that together, but it's just kind of, I was fortunate enough, thanks to Sean, that I like skipped a lot of those steps, but they're still necessary steps to have taken. So I gotta get it together and working on my own YouTube channel and stuff.
I thought your brand was having no set background.
I mean, it unintentionally.
Actually, no, your brand is bad internet. I hate to tell you that.
It is, but it's been stable actually for a bit now.
You just jinxed it.
I know, I really did. There's been times when it's been glitchy, but it's been like normal glitchy of it's been a storm or one time there was like heat complications or whatever. Oh my God, Kate, I started my sketch of Influencer Kate last night. Stop!
So excited for that sketch.
Oh my gosh, if you give me like an affiliate code, we can sell them and I'll influence people to get them. So I look forward to being as insufferable as I can with Ryan on this. But we're gonna dive in a little bit sooner than we normally do. But before we do, there are some news and notes to talk about from this week. The big one that broke today, there was a leaked photo of Tony Khan and Shane McMahon meeting, which everybody assumed was a leaked photograph on purpose by one side or the other. It was not. I've been told by people that I very much trust. Other people have confirmed. Let's start with that. Let's start with Shane McMahon in AEW. I have a very specific way I would like him to be on my screen, which would be in this EVP storyline, kind of to salvage it. I hate to say it feels very dead in the water to me right now. I think it's good that we basically got a breather from it tonight. Like, let's lay off it for a bit and reset. This is the photo in question here.
Everything about this reads as a surprise. Like Tony's face.
It's Shane's... just, is it a staged surprise? You know what I mean? But yeah. I've been told that it was by people that I trust and know that this was not something that was planned at all.
It doesn't hurt either side.
It doesn't. And in fact, I think it's actually kind of beneficial to an actual huge surprise pop would be awesome. Because we haven't really had one of those since like on the AEW side since Sting, I would say. Like we haven't had like a holy shit knock you on your ass. Camille, certainly. But like of that big of an impact. But I think it keeps support drummed up in a really organic way, which is good. So I would love for him to be involved in the EVP storyline. Maybe have 1 or 2 matches. One of them against Darby makes sense, especially with what we see from Darby. Like the two of them just jumping off crazy shit would be fun. But I don't need him in the ring heavily. I don't need him as like a permanent fixture. But like, what is the antithesis of the soul of AEW? Is a McMahon walking in here, plus just the referential situation of what we saw, right, with Shane McMahon in the past. So showing up on different wrestling brands. So I think it would be fun. I think he could pull it off. I really do. Like, I think he knows things well enough to know how to slide into that role. What I don't want is him being the new GM of ROH or any of that shit. Like, I want him to come in, serve his purpose, and get out of
I don't think he wants
AEW.
that.
I hope not, but who knows? You know what I mean? It's wrestling. I have learned more in the past 24 hours about what a carny business this is with some top stars than I think. This is something that is dividing. A lot of people are like pieces saying that they have no interest in this. Our dear friend Kylie is certainly one of those. Not Kylie who's in the chat. Different Kylie. But I feel like he's the antithesis of the soul of AEW, and that piece of this got so lost in the story that I think it's a fun way to get heat back on it if you're going to do it for 4 to 6 weeks or whatever, like just a short run. I cannot speak to anything backstage about him. I just don't know. I don't know if he has a good mind for the business. I know he does not have a good mind for Royal Rumbles. We saw that, and he was terrible at booking Royal Rumbles. But I don't know. Like, I just don't know his background well enough. I know our dear friend Greg Cherry would love this more than anything. Congratulations on his 200th episode today. But where do you stand on this? I don't mind it if he's brought in a very specific way.
So I think we talked about it when it was first rumored that I love him as part of the Elite storyline of him coming in as their financial backer, allowing them to do some of the things they do. That being why Tony has them, like they have ironclad contracts, but they're still getting around with a lot. And like him being kind of making their lives easier, maybe making a power play to quote unquote buy AEW. Very reminiscent of the Invasion storyline for WCW, WWE, which people shit on that storyline now, or at least they did for years, because it definitely was a letdown based off of what expectations were. But
Sure.
the problem with that storyline wasn't Shane or Stephanie's involvement. It was the fact that WCW had none of its big stars.
Correct.
So like you did an Invasion storyline, and not even going to knock him, though you could for his commentary. The biggest star WCW had was Booker T.
Right.
And like he was big in towards the end of it, but people wanted Sting. They wanted Hogan again. They wanted the Outsiders. They wanted Goldberg. Like you had none of those guys. So, but the story of him, so it'd be kind of a fun callback there. I think 4 to 6 is too quick for the story, but I don't think I want him weekly. So
Sure.
I would stretch this out over months, but he only appears once or twice a month at that. He kind of exists as a figure in the background who they bring in for the big moments. I don't mind if he wrestles one match, just one.
I think with Darby, it's almost called for, like just because stylistically it makes sense.
And
right?
I think it would be for one time, but like the problem with, like, let's be fair here. When Shane came out in Mania and blew both his quads, and though that was saved by Snoop, there was a pop for him. People were excited. Like Shane in small doses where he's not the focus of the story, it's fine. It's that it quickly leaves that and he becomes a different figure. At least he did historically in the WWE storylines.
Sure.
And that was the problem. Like when he came back, he was supposed to be warring with Stephanie and Vince, and it made perfect sense. He was the prodigal son. He returned. He brought them, like, but then that just kept going. And then he became corporate. And you're like, what are we doing here? Like, we've so lost the plot. Here, bring him in, have him do a run. I think what a lot of people, if you're not excited by this, that's fine. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you should be excited by something you don't have any interest in seeing. I think some people have in their head this being different than it would actually be. This isn't WWE. His dad doesn't own the company. So he comes in, he's going to be limited by whatever role
100%.
that they get. Like, it's just a different scenario. And I would do it just for how insane it would be to see McMahon show up in a different wrestling company.
That's what I think they would be going for. Is like, it's so anti WWE to have a McMahon around that, like, I'm kind of fine with it as long as it's done the right way. I think it could be really good. The idea of Shane McMahon and Okada being in the same storyline in 2024 is hysterical to me. Like, genuinely cracks me up. But couple of other things that came to light. Beth Phoenix is now officially a free agent. Her photo was removed from the WWE website. She's in the alumni section on there, and it was confirmed that she's a free agent. I had tweeted right after Death Before Dishonor and mentioned on the post show, give me Athena versus Beth Phoenix, please. I would love that. But one thing with Beth, too, depending on if she wants to wrestle, that would be amazing. I think she could have really fun legend matches in AEW. She was a fantastic announcer on NXT. She's probably the best female commentator not named Veda Scott that, like, I've heard, and one of the few female commentators that's been on TV. But when she got into a groove on NXT, she was fantastic. That would be it would be nice to add a female voice into the repertoire. We've been screaming it for months, if not years at this point, to hire Veda Scott, but they seem to not want to do that for whatever reason. So I would love if Beth wanted to take on that role because she was excellent at it. If she wants to wrestle, Athena like just jumped off the page at me. Athena wants the match. She retweeted me. So Beth Phoenix, so much more talented than the era that she wrestled in, let her be. But some really memorable moments selling for her then boyfriend, CM Punk, with that crazy clothesline, or he sold for her. Some fun Royal Rumble spots. She had that feud that should have been a major blow off with Natalia, but they gave her a farting storyline instead. Obviously, she's married to Adam Copeland. So if you're playing couples math, she could end up in AEW or in the AEW fold in some way. But she was one of the first, because I started watching in 2009, before the women's revolution, like 3-minute matches that were hair pulling, and Beth Phoenix. Like, she was the one that really, really stood out. I think she could also be a great backstage coach if that was something they wanted to do, like lean in that direction. But I say whatever Beth Phoenix kind of wants to do within reason, let her do it if she wants to sign up in AEW, man. I think that could be cool. What do you think? Any love for Beth Phoenix? I know you weren't watching at the time that she was wrestling, but anything that you've seen of hers that caught a glimpse of your eye or anything?
No, I mean, she still had it when she came back during that quick run with Edge in WWE. She still could go. What was that, like 2 years ago? She I would like to see her. Like, I mean, I don't think. I'm trying to think. AEW doesn't really have a female legend at the moment.
Correct.
They're very much. Their talent pool now in the women's division is unbelievable, and it's actually hitting strides in both AEW and ROH, just blowing. It's probably the best part of most stories, but they don't have a legend like a Sting they had for a while, or
Sure.
Some of the Japanese guys they bring it back. I would bring her. I definitely would be excited to see her come in. Athena would be fun. You have Camille.
I mean, my head also went to JB Hayter. Like, once JB is cleared, like, whoo. Yeah. Chris Stat, like, I think, that could be really, really fun. That could be really, really fun.
But there's a lot to be said there. Though realistically, I would like to see her use similar to Sting. Not maybe exactly, because different Sting was 60, and though he's doing everything he could do, I think she could still go.
You want to see her jump off a bunch of shit?
No. But I meant more like give her someone young to work with.
Yes.
Team up with. So someone young who they're
Sky's
like,
out, but like a Sky Blue, or if when Julia Hart returns, like that younger crop
yeah,
could be. Yeah,
but even someone other than like Darby, I don't know, they would probably be equivalent to Darby because Darby was known before Sting stepped in. So yeah, someone like that to help take them to that next level. So
sure.
I'm you'll never hear me say I don't want more talent in a company. Obviously, sometimes I worry about oversaturate, like there's just no space. But the women's division, while it is hitting its stride and just amazing right now, um, it could use that vet, that like for the screen vet. I'm not talking background or anything. That I'm talking on screen could use that one vet to help maybe someone young move forward because the men's division has it all over, and the women's just doesn't.
I think that's a really fair point, and honestly, probably backstage as well. That's not to take anything away from Serena Deeb or Madison Rain or the women that have been working behind the scenes there, but like Beth Phoenix's mind for this, I think, is something that could be extremely, extremely helpful. So I'm in. I'm in on Beth Phoenix coming on over to AEW if that's what they want to do. And then one more thing that we can talk about. I actually didn't realize that this got published on Fightful Select, but I had heard the same thing, so we can certainly discuss it here. Bryan Danielson was originally slated for Blood and Guts, but he is being held together by kinesiology tape, is what I was told. I think the word was that there's no way in hell that the doc was going to clear him for Blood and Guts, but he would be cleared by Wembley, and that seems to be the plan that they've gone with here. They didn't want him really to wrestle before Wembley all that much, so some news there. It makes sense because we've had to pivot for injuries so many times with Bryan Danielson. He's also been sidelined from Blood and Guts before because of injury, right? So unfortunate that he hasn't gotten to do one of those, but better to keep him safe for the main event of Wembley. Any thoughts on that?
No, it kind of makes sense. He was on a run, and he does have some age to him, and it happens. I also think though, if he weren't, and if this wasn't his last year, he probably would have just taken off a month or two and rebuilt it, like
Sure.
let his body heal up and then gone back out. But when you're on your last year, you just need to keep going. It fits well with the story. I hate to say it, but it does. Like he's getting beat up. We'll get into it tonight because I think they handled that brilliantly. But there's no reason to risk him in Blood and Guts and all. Listen, again, we talked about Blood and Guts didn't have the right people. He would have been awesome, but he also wouldn't have been necessary. There are other people who fit just as well. Like we're not talking quality of wrestler now, but just storyline wise, fit just as well
Sure.
into that match as he does. Because he was a late comer to the game, so you could have had more originals in there, stuff like that. But yeah, hold them together. Let him take a few months off after All In, and then he can do like a handful of matches a year.
Yeah, I think that's where you might see Danielson ZSJ3. You might see Danielson Nigel McGuinness. You might see like those marquee matches that are going to be genuine, no doubt about it. Dream matches that boost draws. Just having him around for that, I think, will be the usage of him going forward. I would love to also see him on commentary. Like he's so great and so infectious on
But that kind of
commentary.
defeats the purpose, though, because his whole point is that I want to be around for my kids. So, like, if you're on commentary, you're traveling just as much.
Sure, not weekly commentary desk,
Oh,
but
yeah,
like, but certainly, and I also like want to be around for my kids. Not taking bumps is a good way to make sure you're around for your
Well,
kids.
yeah, but I meant
in
like
the
he
long
wants
run.
to be in their lives regularly,
Right.
meaning because he's on the road constantly. Truthfully, it's a weird comparison. It's not a good comparison in terms of wrestler, but I think the time I'd like to see him is what like Brock Lesnar used to do in WWE: show up
Sure.
for a run, go through, take a bunch of months off, because then you don't need to be around. Like his kids can survive that for a couple months where he's still there most of the days. It's just a couple days he's not, and then he's home every day, and then a couple months where he's not. Like, so, and I think that's what he wants to do. I don't think his brain could take being fully out of wrestling.
No, certainly not. Certainly not. when I asked about ZSJ Danielson 3, Zack Sabre Jr. called him a wrestling perv, and I think that seems pretty accurate based on what we know about him. But final thing to wrap up this, Penta and Phoenix, we learned both are going to be a packaged duo as free agents by the end of the year, if not sooner. I think the fact that their contracts are both up is something else. Like, that makes the bidding war a completely different thing, because they are excellent singles wrestlers, but they are a phenomenal tag team. I think they have been misused pretty bad. I would like to see them get used more. I still maintain they should have been in Blood and Guts. I see you, Second Lieutenant Colonel Photo. Thank you for your service in the chat. We're going to talk about Birdie Danielson later, but one of the best tag teams in the world. They have not felt important on AEW programming in a very long time. I'm hoping they re-sign them both, but your thoughts on this?
They're obviously awesome. They've their AEW run's been up and down a little bit. They've had peaks where they've
both
been
have had
they were
injuries
champs.
too.
I think the injuries have fucked them a lot more than we can give credit for, because like they were tag champs at one point, having one of the best rivalries with the Bucks. They were as good as you could get, and then it seems like every time they would get there, one of them would get hurt.
And
Phoenix
they were
especially.
like launched into the trios division, and Pac got hurt, so it's like it's just wrestling.
They seem to not be able to catch a break, but I prefer them, and I say this again. I try to. There's. You said it today. Was it? You said it this week on Twitter. I think who were you talking about? Oh, you were talking about Danny Garcia and how you think he's better in AEW than WWE. The same way you think Jade is better in WWE than AEW. And that's my point. I think they're an AEW team. I think there's a reason that tag teams in WWE always scare me, especially when you have two guys like that who are so good at singles that they'll just be split up almost instantly. And what I like about AEW with them in AEW is they can wrestle tags, but they can also do singles. Like, they don't care as much. It's a lot more fluid. So I'd rather that they'll be successful wherever they go. But I just feel like in WWE they'd be broken up, because even now that remains a thing. I thought that might disappear when Vince went away, but that still remains a thing where they just break up teams for no reason. And
look, they reintroduced the tag belts and they put them on the Miz and R-Truth and Grayson Waller and Austin Theory, who were already having dissension. It's still not great over there in Tagland and WWE. I feel like re-sign them for AEW. Also let them do New Japan Tag League. Also let them work CMLL. Like, let them go on that world tour, because they show out everywhere. But we are going to move on from our news and notes to tell you all about some of the shows on the Shining Wizards Network, and also about how you can support us and look so cool. And that's in your Shining Wizards t-shirts. Okay, here's what you're gonna do.
You're Shining Wizards t-shirts?
Shining Wizards Mark Order t-shirts of the Shining Wizards Network, but buy our shirts is what I meant to say.
Wow.
You know what I meant. Look at this beautiful background on our screen. Don't you want to wear it? I do. Go over to Pro Wrestling Tees, head over to the Mark Order Podcast store, and pick up one of these beautiful shirts. We got our logo on both of them. The two on the right are front and back. I'm partial to the boob pocket design. That's what I'll be referring to it as moving forward. Dress up your titties with our logo. Somebody can clip that. Put that on the internet. It won't get weird at all. But head over to Pro Wrestling Tees. Always running sales over there. If you need to beat that shipping charge, if you can support us, please feel free to pick up a t-shirt. We would very much appreciate it. Second Lieutenant Colonel Photo saying that's the one I have in reference to the titty protector shirt. So there you go.
I'm not saying a word, because I just want you to keep going, because you seem to be getting more absurd.
Why you want me to be saying titty protector?
Yeah, you're getting more absurd with each one, so I was letting it go.
Some days I come on here and I'm like, if you don't support the Mark Order, you don't support women, because I'm on the Mark Order. And if you don't buy our t-shirts, you're not supporting us. Ergo, you don't support women. And then other times I'm yelling, titty protector logo.
Titty protector.
Legal disclaimer. We cannot accurately say it protects titties.
It definitely won't protect your titties.
Yeah, it will. I mean, it will from from a breeze or like the rain, but just like any other fabric would. But
yeah, I mean, it's not special.
So head over there, protect your titties the best way you know how with a Mark Order t-shirt. What you need to do is you need to order 2, and then you cut out the Mark Order logo on the second one, and you glue it.
Are we doing like pasties now?
Yeah, but in a full shirt.
Okay.
Remember? Do you remember Mean Girls where they cut the boobs out? And so there's a scene where they're trying to get to Regina. They're trying to get under her skin, and they cut holes where the boobs are in her shirt, and she just wears them, and then everybody cuts out where the holes in her shirt are. So just people walking around with their bra. It's like that, but in reverse. We're gonna double down on that, but protect your titties. Order a Mark Order t-shirt.
That's a slogan I don't think it's ever been used, but let's go with it.
It's a new one, but
here at the Mark Order, we protect your titties.
There it is. See, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to get my soundboard set up. We're going to be in such a good shape in the studio, but we do also want to take a minute to tell you about the other great shows on the Shining Wizards Network, or more accurately, we want this commercial block to tell you about the other shows on the Shining Wizards Network, but we mentioned it at the top of the show. They had an incredible 700th episode, so please go check that out. Log on, hear Bad Dude Tito call everybody a bunch of nerds and geeks and pussies, because that was cracking me up, but they reminisced on some of the best and worst moments. 700 episodes, they've had a lot. They've also just had names that are now marquee names because they got to them so early over the course of the 700 weeks they've been doing this. Kenny Omega, AJ Styles, Chris Jericho, Eddie Kingston, Ethan Page tells a great story about the last time he had shit his pants. It was a good time. It was a good time. So head on over. Their interview archive is some of my favorite stuff that they do. But we're going to take a moment here. Well, other people are going to tell you about the great shows on the Shining Wizards Network.
Every one of you for tuning in every Monday night to listen to The Shining Wizards. If you'd like to continue to support us outside of listening, we've got a few ways for you to do that. If you shop at Amazon, go over to amazon.shiningwizards.com, do your shopping as usual, and when you make your purchase, a little bit of that purchase price will go back to support the show. If you like to wear t-shirts, merch.shiningwizards.com will take you to our Pro Wrestling Tees store, where we've got over a dozen great designs from over 11 years of professional wrestling podcasting. You can become a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/wizardspodcast, where each and every week we call out your name as one of our show producers, and the more you support us, the more things that you're entitled to receive, and believe me, they are fantastic. If you can't support us monetarily, if you don't shop at Amazon, that's absolutely fine. Continue to listen to us wherever you listen to us on the World Wide Web, and make sure you like, rate, review, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Doesn't cost you anything, helps us out, and we can continue to bring you the love fest that is The Shining Wizards.
What's up, folks? It's your boy, the Impact Player, Mr. Philly Ray, inviting all of you to check out the Turnbuckle Throwbacks Wrestling Podcast. Join us as we cover all things current in the world of pro wrestling, as well as paying homage to the old school, the Squared Circle. So listen in and find out why we are the recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment broadcasting. Find us on all social media platforms and anywhere you get your podcast from. And as always, we are the proudest members of the Shining Wizards Network and Rant Entertainment Media.
Are you tired of being lied to every day by the mainstream media?
Do you want to know what's really going on in the world?
Do you want to make up your own mind about things and not be told what to think or say?
Then listen to Inconclusive Breakdown, a weekly anti-PC look at the world of entertainment and current events, brought to you without censorship or filters.
You can find us everywhere you listen to podcasts, BitChute, and on ShiningWizardsNetwork.com.
And also, we're a proud member of the Shining Wizards Network.
Got 30 minutes to kill?
Come check out 30 Screams or Less, where we review a horror movie in 30 minutes or less. We cover new movies and old ones too.
We'll give our honest thoughts on the movie, good or shit, as well as a rating of each one that we watch.
New episodes weekly, available on the Shining Wizards Network and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Corey.
Come check us out at 30 Screams or Less.
G'day guys, my name is Thomas, one half of the Broadcast Podcast. With our podcast, we go back and watch wrestling events from WWE, WWF, WCW, ECW, AEW, and many other wrestling promotions. You can check us out on Twitter at The Brokast, that's TheBrokast, and you can also download all episodes on Apple Podcast, Castbox, Castro, and many other podcast apps.
You like your music heavy? Then check out Radioactive Metal on the Shining Wizards Network. For over 16 years now, Radioactive Metal has been one of the longest running podcasts. Over the years, we've interviewed some legendary metal acts, had some awesome discussions, and cranked a hell of a lot of tunes. So join your cool Uncle Snowy and his co-host Aaron for the audio mosh pit that is Radioactive Metal here on the Shining Wizards Network.
Well, the action is underway!
What's up, everyone? When on the Shining Wizards Network, be sure to check out Wrestling Night in Canada. If we're not recording another kick-ass podcast,
Or playing in punk bands.
Or recording kick-ass heavy metal albums.
then we're sitting back, we're grabbing a couple brews, and going over everything to do in the world of pro wrestling.
Because we're from Winnipeg, you idiots.
The Mark Order Podcast is the only show you need if you're looking for dedicated coverage of everything AEW on the Shining Wizards Network. Join us live on YouTube every Wednesday night at 10:15 p.m. Eastern after Dynamite to chat along with the show. If you can't join us live, listen to us on your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on all social channels at MarkOrderPod and use the hashtag #JoinTheMarkOrder, because if you don't find us,
we will find you.
I'm Kevin Rowe.
I'm Al Day.
And we're a couple of down under pounders that co-host Rogue Day Dots, an action figure collecting podcast where we talk about, well, just about anything that tickles our fancy at any given moment.
We're grumpy old men, and sometimes people get on our nerves. And when you get on our nerves, guess what? You get off the lawn.
Get off my lawn, asshole! We also go on a little bit of a mission. We go back and we're grading every wrestling figure line that's out there. I'm talking LJNs. I'm talking Jacks. I'm talking Hasbros. Who doesn't like a little Hulkaplex? It's a Gorilla Brain Wrestling podcast production found on the Shining Wizards Network.
I'm Duke Bags.
Kevin Rowe.
And together we are the co-hosts of Your Duke and Road. If you want to hear about some terrible wrestling shows, we got you covered.
Well, we talk about good ones, too.
We're currently talking about the death of WCW.
I know what we're fucking talking about. Sometimes we get guest spots, like from the Taskmaster. I like to listen to the Year of Duke and Rope podcast. They're funny guys. That I like when they talk about the Nards plows. I like Nards plows. That's a good move. And I like the Dungeon of Doom. You know, sometimes I call my butt the Dungeon of Doom. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, Oklahoma.
Let me tell you a little bit about my favorite wrestling podcast. All right. It's a podcast with two men, Duke Bags, Kevin Rowe. They talk about professional wrestling. It's a man's sport. All right? And who better to talk about a man's sport than Duke? Oklahoma.
And once in a while, Vince Russo stops by.
Oh, you piece of shit! If you're not listening to the Year of Duke and Rope podcast in the back with the boys, you piece of shit, I don't know what you're doing. It's, you gotta slide one in there. If you're a man, you're talking about something only a man can do. You're talking about sliding one in there. Bro, take the time to slide one in there. All right, bro, you piece of shit. Slide one in there. A Gorilla Brain Wrestling podcast production that you can find on the Shining Wizards Network.
Those were the great shows on the Shining Wizards Network, Ryan.
Yes, they were.
Do you know what show is the best one?
What show?
Do you know what show is the best one on the Shining Wizards
Well,
Network?
ours.
There it is.
Of course.
This show. This show right here. I accidentally told you to buy a t-shirt of another show, so I just wanted to make sure that I was...
Yeah, but then you point out that our show protects your titties.
And so, you know what? If that doesn't tell you which is the superior show, I don't know what does. But we are going to get into the good stuff. We're going to get into AEW Dynamite. We appreciate you guys taking it out.
Dynamite.
We are the real A show. Thank you, Big G. But let's dive into this episode. We start off with MJF, America's hero, really. And he mentions how easy it was for him to beat Will Ospreay, which I love him doing that. Like the 60-minute match where he was literally sucking oxygen. I think it's so fun that he was like, easy job. But I absolutely adore this. And then he kind of does his typical like cheap heat stuff, but most importantly on this, right, he is in white pants and the reddest red coat that you could ever imagine. And it's beautiful. And we talked about this a little bit towards the beginning of the show. Now that I see where it's going, I love it. And I also genuinely think it's very funny. Not everybody shares this opinion. I find it extremely funny that he keeps calling himself an American hero and then shitting on every American town he goes to. Like, he is an American hero that hates America. God bless him. But this is so much fun. Let's talk about just the MJF stuff. Any highlights that you want to talk about? He just basically says that he's gonna ruin your favorite bruv at Wembley. So kind of the typical stuff, but really it was the outfit that did it for me. What did you think of MJF's promo up front here?
I don't even remember what was said much. It was the outfit that got me. I do notice that they introduced him as the American champ, and the graphics said American champ, which I found interesting.
He called himself a one-man militia in this. Like, there's just
he did, which was so fucking okay. That idea that was
fun
good.
little things in this, yeah.
And as LT points out, called Ospreay a red coat, which is a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I understand it's not going to be for everyone, but I actually think that's okay because you have to take chances on certain character stuff in order. And we've seen the patriotic stuff done a lot of different ways. Obviously, we've seen it as the babyface, and people think that's played out, and that's fine. We've seen it as heels with Jack Swagger's old group.
Yes.
But this is unique because he's, like you said, he hates America. He's a patriot.
Except Long Island, as they're pointing out.
Except Long Island.
Yeah.
So it is very funny. And I like that the baby faces come out and call out the bullshit, which is he's just using it as a shield.
Yes.
This is his way to prop himself up by being the real American, the patriot, while you all are whatever. It's just a very funny, and quite honestly, we're obviously in a political year. It feels like the world's always in that, but we're always more in election year. If you're gonna do an angle like this, not a bad time to try it.
Yeah, we're going into Wembley. He's defending this belt internationally. I'm assuming Ospreay's gonna win it back. So this is gonna be a short run. Have fun with it while you're doing it. And I dig it. But we do get interrupted by our favorite bruv here, who sucks up to the crowd a little bit, but says MJF's title isn't being acknowledged by the crowd because a prick is holding it, which I thought was fun. He's like, it's not his ethos in this was, it's not America versus the UK. It's that you're an asshole and everybody is here for Will Ospreay. And boy, are they. Like, he had that crowd, and especially in the match, we're going to talk about it in a moment. Like the crowd is white hot for Ospreay every time he comes out. You love to see it, but he references Pac and Orange Cassidy and Moxley and Phoenix and Roddy Strong and him, all the people that held the title before MJF, and that they worked hard to make that title mean something. And they had no problem defending it every week, but MJF isn't worthy of it because he's a little bit of a little puss, it sounds like here, but MJF still has the mic in his hand, so he goes in on insulting the crowd again, and says he has morals, so he's not going to talk smack like Ospreay. That I was like, all he does is talk shit, so that's kind of fun. Like, I'm okay.
I love hypocritical MJF. It is my favorite thing. Like you pointed out at the beginning where he comes out and is like, "Oh, I beat him easily," and it was a match where he was dying. Like, I love that because that is so old school heel, but it is something that pisses me off the most in people when they're blatantly lying. So, like, I love it.
Yeah, I'm in on that. I'm in on that. That he throws it to the everybody dies line after calling the other fans of the UK crooked teeth countrymen. So I thought that was good. And then we get to hoop in our opener, Ryan. We get Lance Archer and Will Ospreay putting on a really, really, really fun match here. They are familiar with each other from the work in New Japan, and that's something that I had kind of forgotten about. But Lance Archer did awesome work in New Japan. He did his best work in New Japan because AEW refuses to put him on a consistent track. But Will Ospreay's athleticism and pacing combined with Lance Archer's ability to be like, that's cute, I think is really, really fun. But we get that pop-up spine buster from Lance Archer in this. We get the running into Archer with the Spanish fly after the super kick from Ospreay with both guys going down. Archer trying for that avalanche choke slam, but Ospreay getting the Spanish fly in there as well. But he gets the win with the hidden blade after it doesn't work the first time. He gets it with the elbow pad being stripped, and that helps him put him away. But for an 11-minute match or whatever this was, very, very, very fun. I wish they would do something more with Lance Archer because he does have something special from the big guy perspective of it's like his viciousness is almost independent of his size or supported by his size, but it's not like, look how big I am with everything I do. It's just like, I'm a big dude and I lay my shit in it. And because I lay my shit in as a really big dude, that is why everything is so impactful. But it doesn't feel like he relies on what a big guy he is. It really, really helps like lay stuff in, kind of like Gunther on the WWE side, especially when he was like, as everybody calls him now, Fat Gunther. Like, he can do all the things kind of a more regular sized wrestler could do, but it's just made so much more impactful by his size. So put him and the Righteous on a track to do something, or put him in a title chase or whatever, but it feels like Lance Archer is drastically underutilized. Piece is saying the G1 match between Archer and Ospreay is one of his favorite G1 matches of all time. That match is awesome. But this was good stuff. I really liked this match. And I like that they gave it time because Lance Archer can do a lot when they let him. We just don't get to see it that much. But what did you think of our opening match? And then we'll talk about Kyle Fletcher and his slutty crop top.
A lot of fun, like you said, a lot of fun, and almost, and I don't, in a positive way, felt longer than an 11-minute match, and that they managed to fit a whole lot in that time and tell a very good story. I'm glad it was clean. I feel bad for Lance Archer. He's a less successful Nyla Rose in AEW. They bring them in to lose big matches, except Nyla at least has had the belt, so you can say like she's had that, but he still puts on such a great performance. I mean, there's not like, Ospreay sold the hell out for him. I mean, there was just moments where like he does that clothesline thing where he gets hit with a clothesline and does the full flip over. I always love that. Jesse wants to know how many funds, so hold on.
It's a good question. It's a good question. I give this easily 3 funds, maybe 3.5 funds. Oh, wow. Okay.
It was a 4 out of 4 fun.
I'm going to lie and say it was a 2 just because I like your face the most on that one. Can we get a... Yeah, there we go. And that's fair, actually. It's an excitable amount of fun. So
it was a good match. It was good. It was the only thing I will say is the Lance Archer MJF aspect of it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
They didn't really
But-
clarify if Max had like hired him. They kind of implied it because Ospreay had said he was ducking him and MJF brought him out, but they didn't. I liked it. Like in the pandemic when you would see MJF sitting ringside paying people. Like I loved that. Like I thought that was really fun. And he's so ostentatious about his money. Like make it explicitly clear. So I'm with you on that. But after we get Kyle Fletcher coming down, we have MJF attacking Ospreay after the match. Love MJF using that brainbuster. It looks really, really good. And especially in like a post-match angle, really good stuff from him. But Kyle Fletcher comes down to the ring and Don Callis is there, sadly. But Fletcher says that he has Ospreay's back because they're besties. And he asks Don Callis to help him get a match with MJF. Very, very natural on the mic. Kyle Fletcher does pretty much everything you could want in a professional wrestler, but he gives a little bit of a pro-America speech. He talks about being from Australia, but wanting to wrestle in America and eventually move here because it's where the best wrestle. He said this country has given him his dream girl, his dream car, and his dream life. He's no politician, but for the people who are sick of the same old from MJF, he's there to speak on behalf of them. MJF, of course, declines to fight, but we're gonna get that match and it's gonna be great. It was fun seeing Kyle Fletcher show a little bit of a babyface side in this. He's very, very natural in there. I think he's gonna be turning heel on Will Ospreay, but I do feel like he is a very, very complete wrestler for how young he is, and I liked seeing him here. Most importantly, slutty crop top, quite the hairstyle. Very blonde, very bowl cutish. It is an inspired look. But what did you think about Kyle Fletcher's, first of all, his Luke, and second of all, the promo that he gave after this and the backstage or the post-match attack from MJF?
So, couple things here. He's definitely going to turn on Ospreay. That's a guarantee. But I am glad he's in the storyline. This is a big deal for him. That'll be a fun feud after this feud for Ospreay. Like that'll be a lot of fun going forward. Glad he kind of made the save. His promo was fine. He had a lot of good points. They're all saying the same. Him and Ospreay are saying the same thing, which is MJF really isn't about America. He's just being a dick. But to your important to the most important point you made. Yes, he looked like he was a slutty son on Home Improvement.
Yes, I tweeted that. It was brilliant of me.
My only thing I have a problem with your tweet, it took me a while to think about it, but I think Brad was a slutty son on Home Improvement. So it wouldn't be like they hired the only one. He would just be another one.
I don't think Brad was slutty in his.
Do you remember that haircut Brad got?
That's not.
He shaved those sides. He shaved those sides.
Yeah, but he wasn't too. It was too many button-down flannels for him. It was too many button-down.
This is in Michigan though. That is slutty.
In Michigan,
he smoked weed.
Well, I didn't say he wasn't a fucking badass, Ryan. I denied that he was
slutty. Badasses are slutty.
Man,
and Mark was a little goth slutty.
Sure. He
I mean, the only real conservative one was Randy.
Well, he was the precious baby. He was the baby face of the whole group.
And then he left to go to school abroad when he was in high school, because that's a thing. So
he went to film a movie with like a monkey, didn't he?
Yeah, that was like the end of his career. So Jesse, just so you're clear, Brad, I think, was intended in the long run to be the heartthrob one, but Jonathan Taylor Thomas took off and he ended up being the heartthrob. But then he got too big for the show and left.
But didn't Brad turn out to not be a very good person or something? Like in
think
real
so.
life.
No, I think that was Mark.
Mark was like someone was like a domestic abuser, I think.
Probably. I think it was Mark, but I could be wrong. I'm not gonna. You can't. I don't know, but we're dealing within the show, the world of the show, where it was very clear that JTT was the big one. But Brad, I think, was all okay. So 2LT is saying it was Brad. So Brad turned out to be a scumbag, but which fits the character. I think Brad was kind of a douchebag on the show.
Not everybody
but
that's slutty is a bad person. That's all I'm here to say.
That's true. Actually, I think most of them are very good people. I love them.
That's true.
More power to all of you.
They're
The biggest problem with that show ran into is growing up, you had Brad, the athletic sports one, you had Randy, the funny one, and you had Mark, the cute little one who was, the favorite of the parents, essentially, though they wouldn't say it. When he hit teen years, they didn't know what to do with him.
They definitely didn't.
And that's when they went goth, and it just fell apart. They did not know how to transfer out of I'm the cute young one who the parents love into I'm an actual person. Whereas JTT and Brad's characters evolved. JTT, famous, as SJ's pointing out, in The Lion King.
No one's saying do this. No one's saying be here. No one's saying stop that. No one's saying see here.
Yeah, so
you're welcome for the performance.
Now, at least the show didn't do something that a lot of other sitcoms. I don't know why you got me going. The show didn't do something that a lot of other sitcoms did, which was replace the mom. That happened quite frequently in sitcoms. But
no, because she got paid. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
She got paid. She was one of the few sitcom moms that they were like, we're paying her.
She was also the bigger part of the show than most sitcom moms. I would argue her and Tim were the real stars of the show, and everyone else was just sub character.
Wilson was the star of the show. Thank you very much.
But yeah, Wilson. I still remember the last episode where he showed his face. Came up.
I know. Me too.
They need to. But back to Kyle Fletcher. Kyle would have been a perfect replacement for JTT when he left. He could have been the exchange student. Could have been with Australia, and it could have been Kyle. And he would, and their biggest issue is that he would have always had women around, and men. I think we're now in this age; it's both. And because we're going all out, he is that level, just everyone everywhere. It's always one on each arm.
I mean, that's a lot to insinuate off of a crop top, but I agree with you. I agree with you that could have been the solution.
I'm just developing sitcom characters,
but it could have. You're right in that it fell apart when they didn't know what to do with him. And speaking of things falling apart, the learning tree sucks. Jericho's not getting in-ring pops anymore. SJ's in the chat. What up, SJ? There's a cake back day. Classic 102 celebration cake. You know how you're always celebrating 102 days of something. We get, hey, guys.
You find that a little funny that they were celebrating 102 days?
Not really. Because whenever he's on my screen, I don't fucking care. He's calling out Shibata. We already did this. Move the fuck on. This is the fucking problem with this thing. Is they're ironically being ha ha ha, the vortex, and nobody can move on. Nobody. So he calls out Shibata.
You know what you need to do? Hold on. I got it. You need to love wrestling, and then, hey, love wrestling.
I do love wrestling. This isn't wrestling. This is dog shit. But Bad Apple Brian says he's going to take out Shibata next week. Yeehaw. This sucks. I'm so bored. The live crowd was bored. This is awful. Move the fuck on. This gets 0 funds from me. Your thoughts?
So here's just so everyone remembers, this is how Kate rated it. This garbage is not for her. I was probably at this level until they did nothing with the cake, and it brought it to this level.
That's appropriate.
I was waiting for Marvez to get it put in his face.
Ryan, we have some breaking news.
I just saw it. Hold on.
Our friends at Love Wrestling, Pluggo and JPJ, are going to be meeting in person for the first time within the next half hour. I love that for them. Please let us know what's bringing them together. But we love the Love Wrestling.
Oh, I know what's
folks.
bringing them
Please
together.
support them.
They are in Cleveland. Is it Cleveland for SummerSlam?
Ah, yes.
They're doing SummerSlam, so good for them. I'm very happy for them. They get to do some media.
Guess what I'm doing for SummerSlam weekend? I'm
What?
going to upstate New York to do commentary for a festival that Excite Wrestling's going to be at Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I'm doing the SmackDown review, and I'm doing a SummerSlam review.
Look at you.
I'm going to be so tired of talking about wrestling, but we have fun. We have fun around here. But
my question is, Kate, when Pluggalo and JPJ meet, do you think Sixpence None the Richer is going to play?
Obviously, I think that's pretty obvious. But support our friends at Love Wrestling. We love them, and we love them more than we liked this fucking learning tree segment because it's trash. But we got Chris Statlander going to the ring with Stokely Hathaway, who gives her a really fun introduction here. But this is a CMLL eliminator match. This kind of goes how you think it would. Chris Statlander wins. I think we gotta do this match at Wembley and move on.
I think that's what the plan is.
Yeah, I think so too. And this title also came about because Steph Vacker signed. So none of this was planned, and I gave Willow a ton of credit for stepping up and into that role. And very cool that AEW continues to shine light on CMLL titles. But it's actually funny because it feels like they've almost wrestled too much, where we're running out of ideas for different stories they can tell in matches.
I think this is nice though, because the blow off the last one at their biggest event of the year, it's been one of the most fun stories with maybe their most over babyface women's wrestler.
Yeah.
Maybe their most over babyface in general.
It's very, I think that I think it's good. It's just it's tricky because I think it needs less in ring, but keep the story moving. But now a belt is involved, so you had to do the eliminator match thing. But I also don't think you had to do the eliminator match thing. You could have just had Chris challenge and Will be like, "Fine, I'll fight you again. I'll fight you all the time. I don't care."
Yeah, you're right. You didn't, but I don't know. They'll probably ban Stokely from ringside, and he'll find a way to sneak out, and someone will put him in. I don't know who will come out for for Willow to kick him back to the curb. I don't think it'll be Orange. I think it'll be someone else.
I want it to be Orange.
No, I love Orange, and it's not that I don't love Orange and Willow. I think they'll have a surprise fun thing to get him to maybe a British person to get him pushed to the back.
Oh, that could be fun if Grado came out or someone.
Yeah, that's something it's more just to get the pop for the live crowd.
I'm into that idea. I would also be okay with it just being Kyle O'Reilly because he's such a silly goose. But
he is and that now actually logically makes sense.
Yeah, it kind of rules.
Yeah.
So we move on to this Bryan Danielson promo. He does some I'm in your local city cheap pop stuff, but he talks about how him and his wife had their engagement pictures taken there. He was looking through those pictures with Brie, and you don't really realize you're in the good old days until they're almost gone. But he's been fortunate enough to realize that he is in the good old days, that he's been here for all of this, very present in these moments, that he's been lucky in his career to recognize these things, and that they're some of the most fun that he has had in his career. And he's been mentally present for all of it. We get thank you, Brian chants that ring out here. And he mentions his stupid daughter again. He said he made her a promise that he was going to be around for her 7th birthday. And if I have to hear about this stupid kid's birthday one more time, as if it's not the most selfish little brat thing that she could do to take Bryan Danielson away from professional wrestling full time. She sucks, okay? Brittany Danielson sucks. I don't care that she's a 7-year-old. I'm mad at her. And I'm not going to fight her because it would be ridiculous to fight a child. But if she threw hands at me...
And you'd lose.
Well, yeah, her dad's Bryan Danielson. and her mom's Brie Bella in Ring Legend. So, I don't feel bad for saying that she's a selfish brat because she's taking Bryan Danielson away from wrestling, and this is all her fault. So I hate her and everything she stands for. And we get Swerve coming back out here after Danielson says that he has been kicking in a lot of heads for over 3 years. He still hasn't won that world title. And we get Swerve interrupting, coming out with Prince Nana. Of course, he gets the mic and he says when he came to AEW, he promised to win the title, and he did. And that Bryan is one of the greatest of a generation, but that Swerve is one of a kind. And that a decade from now, he knows that people will still be chasing Bryan. And that he may have kicked a lot of heads in, but apparently he couldn't handle it when people started kicking back, which I thought was a nice line to get to the injury. But he tells Danielson that it isn't an achievement award. The belt is something that shows you're the best in the world, and Swerve is the best in the world. References his classic with Ospreay, and that when Ospreay tried to step to Swerve, he lost, which I thought was good. And says that he was out there for Blood and Guts. He was in London last year for All In. Kind of saying that Danielson can't take the heat in all of this, which I like. And they basically say Danielson's career versus the title, which I think is the fucking stupidest way you could have ended this segment.
Oh, I hard disagree.
I think it was gangbusters until you tipped off the booking of main eventing Wembley.
See, I disagree that it tipped off the booking.
We know he wants to wrestle again.
Hold on.
Ever.
We have
This is
statements
fucking
here.
stupid. What
First
did you
of
think
all-
of the segment? What did you think of this closing line? Because I feel like it's indefensible to have done that when we know he's going to be wrestling ever again. He said his career, not I'm going to retire and wrestle sporadically.
I'd like to point something out that for a second there, my bottle was getting caught in the green screen. There's like one area, so it looked like I was drinking
Floating water or something.
Wherever. I was drinking nothing, and it was really cool looking. But anyway, I liked the whole thing. I think Swerve actually came out sounding great, being like, you failed and you got hurt, and I succeeded. Like,
He stood on the results.
Makes him sound like a badass. Here's my argument against what you have said. They are hyping up that Danielson is, first of all, yes, he's saying career, but for some people, they might just assume that means career in AEW because that's basically how it works in wrestling. People put their career on and then they go somewhere else. 2, they're hyping up his injuries so much that I think they're trying to put the thought in people's heads of like, I think that not they're trying to put in their heads. I think their problem was that they think people might assume he's going to lose just because he physically can't do it. And therefore the outcome's known that he was going to lose. So now you're putting something out like, well, maybe he doesn't lose because he's not going to leave his career. But then are they really going to foreshadow that he's losing his career? Well, he's really hurt. So maybe he can't wrestle. There's a whole lot of going on there.
No, I feel like it felt almost 50-50 going into the segment and now coming out of it.
Oh, I didn't think it was 50-50 at all. I thought it was heavily implied to be Swerve. At least in people's minds. I don't know if it's their world, but...
Well, speaking of my world, we set up Jeff Jarrett and Bryan Danielson for some reason. I swear to God, this guy does one really good 9-minute thing. And they're like, we're just gonna fucking pretend that he has ever been a true legend and great at this. But whatever. I think they're trying to make Bryan Danielson feel a little bit like he has some edge to him because Swerve is a face that leaned heel in this promo. I think they want Danielson to be a face that has some bite to him. So I think he's gonna have like a pretty nasty one with Double J. But I don't know who could possibly fucking care. Not me.
You know, your hatred of Double J, I think, is the reason we keep seeing Double J.
I definitely manifest him.
I think so too. I think the universe.
Because my issue is the usage of him. Because
Yes.
like he takes up so much screen time, and I don't see Ricky Starks on my screen.
I think Tony Khan is sitting in his office writing, and he has no intention of using Jeff Jarrett. And then like this weird energy zaps into his brain, and he goes, Jeff Jarrett. And I think that weird energy is what you put into the universe.
I think there's too many Jeff Jarrett Bree-woo pervs, and I'm not a fan of it. People want him at Wembley versus Hangman. Get the fuck out of my life. Get me
cowboy on cowboy violence. The cowboy on cowboy violence.
Hangman versus Okada, please. We move along to our trios match, which is the conglomeration, Roddy Strong, Roosh, and Beast Mortos against Mark Briscoe, Orange Cassidy, and Ishii. I love that Best Friends has just been rebranded as the conglomeration, because it's the same thing of guys who make absolutely no sense together that work perfectly together. Like that's basically what it is. It works alarmingly well. And Ishii is only going to be here for the summer. So like they were like, Ishii is not in the G1 because his body can't handle it because he's fighting a knee injury, but he can come to AEW for a bit. And so they're like, you know what? Orange Cassidy and Mark Briscoe. Mark Briscoe, your ROH champion. This match was a blast. I think it is a crime that Roosh and Beast Mortos don't wrestle every day in front of me. What a fun combination. I remember Alex Pulowski at Fightful saying they should have Beast Mortos and Beast Blanco. Like, do a tag team with Roosh and Beast Mortos. I'm like, oh, hell yeah. Like, the amount of in that I am on that. But this is really, really fun. Beast Mortos had an incredible match on Death Before Dishonor. I would love if they started this like ROH rebuild around him. He could do a lot of really excellent work there. But Roddy Strong, Roosh, and Beast Mortos winning here. This was just like an in-ring show out that was so much fun. There was a spot where you got Strong with an angel slam and a tiger driver for a 2, and then Ishii with an elbow and a headbutt from Mortos. Like, it was just so violent and crazy, but ultimately you got Mark in to break up at J Driller, and then Mortos spiking Mark with the Michinoku driver for the W. I was glad the heels won in it because I think they just needed it. Like, this conglomeration faction is just so silly and fun. They kind of didn't need this, but this was just very, very fun in ring. What did you think of this match? Pieces putting out that orange played bullfighter. That was
that was my favorite part of the whole match.
That was fantastic.
He just did it so well. I mean, like you said, the conglomeration is working for some reason. It just is. I actually think the whole thing is because of Kyle O'Reilly.
He's amazing.
His responses to Mark Briscoe's promo.
Like, he's a preacher. Like, Mark Briscoe's a preacher, and Kyle O'Reilly is like call and responding in the background. And him holding the ROH title as a baby was like the funniest thing in the world last week. Like, he has been so aces, and I'm so happy he's back. I missed him so much.
He's so because Orange is kind of like a chameleon in the sense that like you could really fit him in anywhere and he works.
Yes.
Because he's got the wrestling quality that if you put him in if you put him in the, as weird as it sounds, if you put him in the Blackpool Combat Club, you could almost make it work because he's so good in the ring. He'd be the lazy one who doesn't care, but fights everyone. But for this, it's like he just blends in, but it doesn't work if Kyle O'Reilly doesn't respond to Mark Briscoe the way he does.
Yeah.
But they didn't need the win for that reason. They're so, and Kylo.
I do that all the time with his name. It's so easy to do.
And O'Reilly not in the match helps, right? Or what's his name? Wait, I'm blank. My brain's just broke. Kyle was the one not in the match, right?
Not in the match for tonight?
Yeah, or was it Orange?
It was tonight. Was Mark Briscoe, Orange Cassidy, and Ishii?
Yeah, okay. Sorry, because in my head I'm thinking Orange did the move, but
you could do a bullfighter spot without being in the match. Yeah, I get you.
I'm just wondering if, like, I was wondering if I was tricking my own brain. But I think Kyle not being in the match is good for them taking the loss because he is the the rest, like you have Orange, obviously is the best out of all of them within AEW in terms of like highest quality. But Ishii for O'Reilly, again, Ishii's going to be gone, so don't have O'Reilly take the loss. It works out. They just need to get the belt off Mark Briscoe.
Yeah, or have him be an ROH. Pick a struggle. But speaking of struggling, the Acclaimed are backstage. They're coming to Collision. Max Caster calls himself the best wrestler in the world for some reason. They call it FTR, even though they haven't had their fucking eliminator match yet. I don't understand why them being enthusiastic last week made that a good promo. It was a dumb promo. I don't get it. Why are you calling out FTR when you have a pending title match that people won't set with you? I know the real reason is they're probably setting up a triple threat or a 4-pack at Wembley. But in kayfabe, it makes no fucking sense. So Bowens mocks FTR for talking shit and then not showing up. But Saturday, they're gonna do a thing. Whoop-de fucking do. I'm so sick of people being like, it's just on the internet. They're getting huge pops in the arenas for the entrance. And then Max Caster does stuff in the ring and nobody gives a shit. Like, Bowen shows out because of course. But like, every fucking match is the same from these guys. I'm so bored. I don't care. I don't want to see them against FTR. They'll never top what we got on Collision this week from MXN with FTR. I don't even think Bowens is going to jump into Max's arms. This is boring as fuck. Your thoughts?
I mean, didn't FTR take a shot at them?
When?
Isn't that what they're responding to? FTR called them not real wrestlers. Call Max not a real wrestler.
They just did a thing about FTR last week. I think FTR was responding to them.
But I thought they were responding to FTR's response to them. Oh, no, you're right. They started it. They started it by saying something to FTR. You're right. I don't know that. That makes no sense. I will say Bowens is legitimately in a great promo when he wants to be.
Yes.
I think the problem you're running into here, Kate, is you're just so over the Acclaimed that even though this was actually like a good promo, you don't care.
I don't get why it's good. It makes no fucking sense. When you have had a pending title match that you won in an eliminator 4 weeks, to then go call out a different tag team for something with no fucking stakes makes no sense to me.
You don't have enough hate in your heart to hate multiple people at once? Feels like you do.
If you have an eliminator match that you have had for weeks, and you're supposed to be facing that you won an eliminator match, you have a pending title match against the Young Bucks, who have not defended at fucking all since they won these titles. This was supposed to be the whole tag division reset. Bullshit. And they're calling out FTR for not being there because Dax got injured. As if that's not the only reason they were in the fucking match to begin with. This is bad. None of it makes sense to me. Explain to me. Like, I genuinely don't get it. Like, last week we get this dumbass promo from Caster, who's like saying that if they really cared about AEW, they would have been in the match, when they wouldn't, because it's a finite number of people that can be in Blood and Guts, and the Acclaim took that spot. And they have a pending title match, and they're calling out FTR. Makes no sense to me. Garbage. Well delivered, but garbage. And this tag division continues to be a fucking mess. Like, we had a tournament to reset everything after the tag titles got vacated, to get to FTR and the Young Bucks again, for the Bucks to literally have never defended them. What the fuck are we doing? I don't, if you have some rationale, please explain it to me. I get that they're dodgy heels. Never having defended them is trash. Like, that is bad. No other tag teams are benefiting from this. I don't get it. This sucks. And yes, I do hate the Acclaimed.
I think that's what it boils down to.
No, what about what I said makes sense as tag booking at all?
The Acclaimed, so the Elite are dodging them. They have EVP power, so they're able to pull that off.
They aren't even abusing their are.
They are behind the scenes. We just don't even see it.
It should be in front of the scenes. That's the gimmick. We don't even see. This is why there was no fucking heat on the Blood and Guts match that drove me so nuts. They have stopped abusing their power, and also Tony Khan is fine. He's no longer in a neck brace. So what the fuck are we doing? Like, there was no, it didn't feel like the soul of AEW was at stake because they are not using their powers of authority to manipulate things anymore. They are not manipulating their way out of not facing the Acclaimed for the titles. Just, they don't give a shit about it because they're now going after FTR. This doesn't make sense.
Does it make dollars?
We would never know because there's no fucking matches about it. Maybe the foam fingers do, but you don't need to be in a tag title match for that.
To me, there is a silver lining this if you want to look at it.
Very much don't.
Okay, then I won't tell it to you.
I mean, you can tell the good people at home, but like, I would rather they don't book a bunch of dog shit in the tag division when you have the teams that we named. You have MXM now. You have the Lucha Brothers. You have Private Party. You have Butcher and Blade, who are really good, but just completely forgotten about and never on screen. You have Top Flight, who doesn't know if they're in a fucking trio or a tag team, or if they're in AEW and ROH. This tag division is a mess.
But the silver lining is, this is making Bowens look very good.
Did we not already know that Bowens was great at this?
I think it doesn't hurt to have more shine.
All right. I would prefer that the creative make literally any sense. I think the thing that might happen is we get GYV coming out and facing the Acclaimed. Because I think the Acclaimed are leaving Wembley champions, and that makes me want to jump off a fucking bridge. I think we are starting the downfall of the Elite and their titles. I think the Acclaimed win. And then I think they might lose as soon as All Out. But I think GYV come out after that match and they have a stare down. Because remember how GYV lost to them all that time ago?
No.
The one appearance GYV had on AEW programming, they lost to the Acclaimed.
I legitimately forget it. So, I mean, that's...
So there you go. What a great job AEW has done with this tag division. It is horseshit. No, it's not horseshit.
Cow shit?
No, Mariah May. I appreciate that she's sitting in this interview. I mean, categorically, like, neither is cow shit. I appreciate that Mariah May sits like me when I'm at my peak ADHD and like I have to still be doing work. But Mariah May is talking with Renee. She has always wanted to be like Toni Storm, and she gained her love and got so close to her before slicing it open and wearing her skin. Toni didn't do anything to May. In fact, May loved her for giving her everything she wanted, but Toni warned her about business eating you alive, and it was just Mariah May's turn to eat. This is kind of what I wanted from the first promo after the heel turn, so I'm glad we got it here, because I felt like the one where she came out as Toni didn't quite hit as hard. This was like the full explanation, was like, actually, I love Toni Storm. This was not planned from the beginning. But I saw my moment and I capitalized and I learned that from you. I think that's good. I think that's a good and a reasonable explanation. I'm hoping we get more about it. But then we go down to the ring and Toni Storm is crying on stage about loving Mariah May. They say you should let what you love kill you. Well, at all.
Who says that?
I don't know. It does feel like an old-timey movie quote, though. So I assume RJ City saw that somewhere.
Yeah, I guess. It feels made up.
It feels like the phrase that, like, when someone says, like, at least she died doing what she loved or whatever. I think it's supposed to be more like that, but the language is just weird or different. But Mariah May, her look is incredible in this with, like, the slicked hair and the crazy eyebrow. Like, she has just lost it. She has this kind of meltdown. But she says it all in. It's going to be the romance of a lifetime. Loved both sides of this, and I love that they took place in separate settings because it justifies why they didn't like come face to face. Like Mariah's was clearly a sit down interview with Renee, and Toni Storm just had to respond in the most maniacal way she knows. But what did you think of Miss Mariah May and Toni Storm's response?
So you are right.
Well, yes.
This was well, not about much, but you were right about this. The initial response by Mariah May to walk out as Toni Storm didn't get over as well as they'd hoped. I think part of that has to do with, again, if you recall, the fans that night weren't that great. I think a lot of people actually thought it was Toni at the beginning of her walkout because she did look
She
much
looks
like Toni.
just like her when they do that. It's insane.
Yeah. So I think people were confused for a while until they started talking. And even when they started talking, I think there was confusion because accent to accent, like I think people are like, what the hell are we doing? I always took that as more just rubbing salt in the wound. So I was okay. I'm still okay with it being like, but you needed this. This was the logical, let me explain it to you. And I love that they did kind of backtrack on their own wording, which is in the promo where she was Toni, she seemed to indicate like it was a plan all along, which I like this way better, which is like it wasn't. I did truly love her. But this is what it is. Like, in some ways, it is the Toni thing. Toni Storm is that crazy, and she kind of did learn to just be that crazy.
I learned it watching you.
Yeah, she learned it from you, Dad.
I learned it watching you. Yeah, really good stuff. Really good
and Toni completely goes and justifies it in the next segment.
Yes.
Being like, Mariah's out here being like, Toni's the one who taught me this and where I learned to do this. And people be like, really? And then Toni comes out and pretty much you learn like, oh yeah, Toni's unhinged.
Yeah.
Absolutely taught Mariah this.
She's so unbelievable about the increments in which her insanity advances. Like she's a little more unhinged each week and it shows up a little differently each week. Like she's so good about applying how much crazy she wants to all of this. So kudos to both of them because I thought this was aces. But we move along to more women's wrestling. By the way, that Willow and Chris match went on at around the 8:35 mark. We get more women's action about an hour later. We are seeing multiple women's matches across both shows more frequently. And there were 3 segments tonight for women's wrestling, which is fantastic. So much growth in the division. And now we're starting to see that expansion of the screen time. And that is the hardest obstacle, I think, because network has say. So nice to see them getting the fruits of their labor a little bit, but we get Camille versus a jobber. And this is what Camille is here to do. She gets a tackle in the corner, and then she yanks her opponent up and just tosses her across the ring. We get this nasty running leg lariat and a pump kick, and her finishing move called the Dominator for the win. Post-match, we get Mercedes Moné coming down with Camille, and she takes the mic. Eventually, we get some DMD chants from the crowd, but Mercedes just being like, this whole time, Eddie Wood but Britt. It's Britt's fault. Like, this is very, very, very fun. She says my EVPs are helping take care of things, which I loved in this. Like, her just being so in bed with the Elite is so much fun. But Baker might have a match as they set up at Comic-Con, but she's also suspended, and Camille can overpower her and do more than equalize her. It's her house now, and losing at All In will still be the best part of Britt Baker's career, which I thought was a really, really nice line. I really liked this. I thought this was a lot of fun. It's incredible how fruitful the stories in those women's division are now. I never get tired of it. It's what should be the standard, but the way that they closed the gap is just phenomenal here. Some really, really great stuff headed into the season at Wembley after, when you consider last year, it was like Saraya with a fluke win in 4-pack that was the shortest match on the card, and that the entrances were longer than. And now it feels like we're headed toward probably 3 matches, if not 4. Like some really, 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 really good shit. So what were your thoughts on Camille's debut? Very nice to see her in action here. And Mercedes post-match promo. Kind of standard, but sometimes that standard is good.
So, couple things. Camille is going to be a lot of fun. The powerhouse style is always a good time, and she just looks like a brick house. Get it? I'm with Big G. Not thrilled that Brick House is the nickname and not the last name anymore.
Yeah,
I liked it as the last name more, but she's awesome. She's a lot of fun. I still love starting her out as the heater. I think it's a good way to introduce her, and then when they're ready, they could just make her whatever they want. Like it's a nice and slow introduction to the crowd. There's not much to say about the match other than she just looks like a dominant, and that's awesome. The Mercedes promo was fairly standard, but you're right. Standard is good sometimes. You're just trying to get her more and more over as a heel, and it's working.
So natural. She's just like I said this before, but like she reads like Punk to me, where it's like they do good work as faces, but they grew up idolizing Eddie Guerrero. Those people are heels. Like she's meant to be a heel. I love that we're just blatantly having the CEO and the EVPs in bed together. Like what a fantastic wrinkle in all this. But continue.
No, you're right. That's the smartest thing they could have done. It's also a quick way to establish her as heel, make her like the biggest heels in your company. Her speaking in short sayings is much better as a heel than a face, because gets kind of annoying, but that you want it to be annoying if you're a heel. Like she's saying, Monday changes everything again. Oh, great. Well, yeah, you want to hate her. Like that's what you want. Speaking of hater, if Jamie gets cleared as Britt's heater to go against Camille, oh boy,
we are cooking. We are cooking if that's the case. Some tag matches there would be very, very fun. We're getting Camille versus Britt next week, I think. So that should be very.
Are we really?
I think so.
Now, see, do you think that match ends in hijinks?
It's possible. It's possible.
Because I think it's early for Camille to take a loss.
I agree. I think you could also have Camille winning by nefarious means. Like Britt can take that loss as we're building to Wembley. So,
yeah,
good shit. Like if the story you're gonna tell is that Britt needs more muscle, like she can afford to take losses here.
Yeah.
But we move on to our main event, Darby versus Hangman Page, and this was very fun. My cousin just got into AEW, and he was like, holy shit, Darby Allin's a lot of fun to watch. Which is true. He's a maniac, but Hangman falling prey to his obsession with inflicting pain on people was a really, really, really fun story in this match. You had some really just like gross spots from Darby in this. Like it's so hard to watch, but also so much fun. And you at some point just have to like trust that Darby Allin knows what he can do and take, because like it always feels like we're gonna watch that guy's gonna die, but like he's not injured nearly as much as other people. So it's insane. But there's a coffin drop onto the floor. He lands a German suplex on the floor. He's just ragdolling Darby for so much of this, but Darby hits a flipping stunner in this. Really, really, really insane stuff all around. But what else was in here? The slam into the ring post with Darby jumping over Hangman and getting caught and slammed into it. A couple power bombs on Darby. Like Hangman is just being so violent. I feel like the story here was really good and made a lot of sense, but buckshot lariat, and Page just whips out a lariat of his own for a near fall. I love that Darby tried the buckshot. I thought that was really cool. And then I like Adam Page hitting the dead eye towards the end of this as well. But Buckshot Lariat and Darby slumps over. And he gets the Oklahoma roll for the surprise pin on this after some lariats get exchanged. Just some sicko stuff from Darby in this. But I liked that there was a really complete in-ring story. Like that Hangman is back to costing him for himself. Because he just is more obsessed with the violence than he is about winning a wrestling match. That's a fun story, and it's a fun chapter for Hangman to be in. Yeah, the stair bumps he takes 2 LT photos saying are just like gross. They really are. Like they're tough to watch. He's also very good at selling them. Like you can see the way, because he commits to things with his entire body head to toe. Like when he does that on cells, it's insane. So I love when he's doing stuff like that. I just wish we got to see him do more wrestling stuff because he's really, really good at that too. I always go back to when you and I went into a movie theater and we saw Darby and MJF have what I think we both agreed was like almost, we had Kenny and Hangman, but like from an in-ring perspective, that was our favorite match on the card. That also had CM Punk and Eddie Kingston, which just felt so like its own thing because the violence of it was so like a UFC fight almost. And Hangman and Kenny was like the culmination of a story, but just bell to bell, you and I both loved that match. I wish we got to see that side of Darby a little bit more, but as Excalibur says, you've got to give the people what they want. And like, I want to see him chain wrestle, but most people are in it for these sicko spots. And that's what he likes to do. So God bless him. But I loved this as the main event. I actually thought this was really fun. What did you think of what we went home with here? Also, the lights went out. It was accidentally a lights out match.
Baby, when the lights go out. Yeah, Darby's a lot of fun. And he fits this Hangman style real well. Where, like you said, Hangman's more concerned with hurting people than he is winning. And what I like, I don't know if this is where they're going, but it's so far it is, which is it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, which is he gets more focused on hurting someone, so he loses, which makes him angrier and wants to hurt people more, and then he loses again, and it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And I really like that, and there's a lot of places that could go. And I don't think this loss hurt him because it was a roll-up, and he was dominating. So, like, you can look at it and be like, if it, you know, in the kayfabe world, you can look at it and be like, well, he should have won, but he lost. You are right about Darby. You just got to trust that he knows his bumps better than other people, I guess, because he takes some of the most insane goddamn bumps I've ever seen, and I don't know why he does it. But you're also right that he's actually a much better wrestler than he sometimes lets on. I think, while I think most of the time he should stick to his instinct and stuff because that's clearly the style he likes, I would prefer every now and again him to break it out in a story. And the way you tell that story is you have an opponent who doubts him, who thinks I prepared for your sicko way, and then all of a sudden he just comes and chain wrestles the hell out of him.
That was kind of what we had with MJF, was he was like making fun of him being a little twerp or whatever. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, dude can hoop. Okay. So
yeah. So like I think that's a fun way of telling that story. But someone, I think it was Lyric, from I forget what she's put
Lyric Wrestling. She does a lot of her own stuff, maps and graps and stuff. She's an unbelievable follow.
But she put out on Twitter that Darby might be a top 5 TV wrestler, and that's not something I can disagree with. I mean, I'm sure like if you really went, you could start putting people in your head. But her point stands that he has a lot of TV matches, and he always delivers them. Like, she's not saying he's a top 5 wrestler in general. Just he gets put on TV and he delivers at the highest level every time he's on TV.
I don't agree, but I can't disagree. What I mean is like he misses my top 5, but I don't have an argument against someone else putting him in theirs. Like that's a very, very fair thing to say. My only thing is that I feel like there's 2 schools of thought on this, which is there's people like me who are like, he always wins by doing insane shit, and I've seen him do a ton of insane shit, so I don't need to see him keep doing insane shit. And then there's the school of thought that he builds on his insane shit and he does different stuff. So he's working within his style to create new ways. For me, it's just a turnoff because that's all kind of in the same bucket. And I feel like he essentially rotates the same stuff, right? Like, we're always going to get a coffin drop, whether he does it monkey bars onto a table or he does it to the outside, it's still a coffin drop. That's a high risk spot to me. So I kind of get turned off by that because it just feels redundant to me. But I completely understand people that feel like, nah, he switches up the playbook on new ways to be a sicko all the time. So pick your poison. That's the beautiful thing about wrestling. But to me, this was almost more about the Hangman story of this like transference of I have to hurt my opponent, whether it's Swerve or not. I feel like costing him tonight and Darby sneaking a win was a fun story. Was a fun story and a fun way to end the episode. So some good stuff. Some good stuff here. The crowd seemed really quiet tonight. I know a couple of people who were actually at the show, Lyric being one of them, Cass from Body Slam being another, that said they were loud in the arena. It must have been a miking issue, but it was a solid episode overall. I'm excited to see what next week brings. I'm excited to see what my dear colliders bring outside of the Acclaimed. But that's all we got for you here at the Mark Order podcast. We will remind you, if you've made it this deep into the episode, to please leave a thumbs up on this video as we start to close out here. But before we get out of here, Ryan, where can the good people find you? Where can the good people find the Mark Order? What are we doing these days?
You can find us on all socials at Mark Order Pod. Just don't be a
dickhead.
Thank you. And then you can follow me, hereforhistory.com, at _hereforhistory on the socials. And don't be a dickhead there either. So there you go.
Are you saying if they want to be here for history, they can go there for history?
I want to be so mad right now, but I can't.
No, it was
that
good.
Was fucking brilliant.
That was really good, wasn't it? That was good.
Very good. It was really good.
Follow the Mark Order podcast at Mark Order Pod, as Ryan said on socials. We appreciate the support so much. You can follow me at Miss Kate Fabe. I am loaded up this weekend. I've got your ROH review at Fightful tomorrow. We're in a new era, I'm told. We'll see if that holds up. But Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I am at Speedy Fest. If you are in the upstate New York area, you probably already know about it. It's a very big deal. So upstate New York area. Jesse Ozak already knows about it, but you're going to be able to feast your eyes. Jackie's going to be there. I'm very excited about that. We're going to be ratioing people all weekend as long as the weather holds, but I will also have your Friday night SmackDown review, and I will also have your SummerSlam review on Fightful Select. So follow me there. You can follow me at Miss Kate Fabe on social media, and you can also follow me at Miss Kate Fabe on YouTube. If you could go there and subscribe if you haven't already, that would be awesome. I'm working on some content that I guess it's technically August 1st now. So we are off and running on what's going to be on the Miss Kate Fabe YouTube channel there. So please check that out. But for now, we say, if Ryan is ready.
Ryan is ready.
We say goodbye and good night.
This concludes the Mark Order podcast. We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming.